I have news. I finally finished reading the Bible. Wizard's first rule, Terry Goodkind. What do I have to say? 10 out of 10. Number one, the ending was just not the conclusion to the story, but like the events that happened at the end of the book was just moment of silence, round of applause. It was great. I have a couple things to say. I didn't mark anything in the book, so I'm gonna have to think really hard about what pissed me off and what didn't in the book. But what I remember vividly around the beginning of the book was Dem and Nas, right? If you read the book, you know. I don't think he's even mentioned in the TV series I don't really remember that well, but he's a pedophile, a notorious, well-known pedophile, and the book has no issue with telling you how much of a pedophile he is. I think it's mentioned somewhere in the book that he has like 200. He's had like 200 victims or something. I don't even know. But oh yeah, he said he had too many to count, and it was between 80 and 120 children, boys. Right. So it's mentioned in the beginning of the book, and then there's like a whole scene where he can't abuse Kaylin because she is not a little boy. I mean, I just don't understand why that's such a big part, why it needed to be mentioned so much in the book. But I actually mentioned it to someone, and they said it was to make you hate them. And obviously, like, he's a villain, he's supposed to be hated, but aren't there a million other ways to hate someone, you know? They don't have to be a pedophile and describe everything to you. And that reminds me, one other thing I didn't like about this book was the child sacrifice. Like what is the point of that? Like, a little naked boy and then cutting off, you know, and eating it, like, just to open a rift in the underworld. That's not, was that even necessary? Like, couldn't you just stab him in the neck and like bleed him out, and then that would do that, you know? So weird. So weird. Did not like that. Things I didn't like. Oh, I guess it's turning into a hate video. Actually, no, the book was really great. I loved the book. 10 out of 10. Everything in the book I loved. I love the characters. I don't know. I remember in the show that Kara was a mord-sith. I don't know when she was introduced. Might have been season 2. But she was not in this book. I mean, it's the first of what, 14? But we'll see what happens. I'm so excited to read the second book. This was fantastic. One thing I didn't really like about the plot, I guess, was that not a lot happens until maybe like this much. This is the good part at the very end of the book. Because everyone meets like around here, and then all of this, walking through the forest. That's all that's happening. Kaylin and Richard meet in the very beginning of the book, and then they find out, they like talk to the wizard, and then they find out what they have to do, and they're immediately on the road to the Midlands. And almost the entire book is just them walking through the forest, trying to get somewhere into the Midlands, which is like good and bad. Like, it was really boring half the time. Like, yeah, they met, they walked through the forest, they got to the mud people, which took about, I don't know, 200 pages of the book. And then after that, they're just walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. And something happens, and then they split the road, and then they're doing this, and then they're helping them, and then they're walking, and then it switches point of view to Rachel for like what, 3 chapters, and then they're just walking, like all of like, not that I hated it, I don't really have a problem with that, but I felt like this book could have been so much shorter, and it's like long for no reason, you know? But the events that happened at the end, like, can we just talk about Mistress Denna? Like, she is the greatest character to ever be written ever. Like, you thought you loved Caitlyn? Like, no ma'am. Mistress Denna is it. And I was so pissed off and so sad that she had to die. No spoilers. Actually, it's not a spoiler. It has nothing to do with the plot, kind of, but she existed and she died, and it sucked. That whole mord-sith section, which sucks that it was only, what, like 50 pages, was so great. The torturing, I mean, not that, you know, I like that he was tortured, but like just the whole like world for that, like, come on. That was amazing. Right, so what was I saying? Um oh right, so narratively it's not slow. Like there's always something happening. It's not just like, oh, they're walking through the forest, you know, green trees. Like it's not like that at all. It's just slow plot wise. Like they're here forever, and then everything happens at the end of the last, like, what, 100 pages. They meet a freaking dragon, and then like everything happens at the end. But narratively, it's not slow. Like you're always invested in whatever's happening at the moment, which is great. But I just wish that, you know, it was a little shorter. Um, what else do I have to say about this book? I mean, it's just amazing. I thought about reading this and watching the TV show side by side, but as I was reading this, I realized that a lot of this stuff in here is not in the TV show at all. I mean, clearly, like, they can include the, you know, the sexual abuse scenes and the pedophilia scenes and the sacrificial scenes, but so I feel like a lot of it was left out, which, I mean, rightfully so. It's on a network television, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. But I might. It's only 2 seasons, right? But we'll see what happens. I have no clue what's supposed to happen in the second book. I mean, I know what happens in the second season, but the way this is ended in the first book, it's kind of like, it feels like a standalone. Like there's like a tiny little cliffhanger at the very end. So I feel like this is just a perfect standalone. It's a perfect adult fantasy book, to be honest. Like 10 out of 10, fully recommend. It's just great. Ugh, I love Kaylin so much. The scenes when she had the Kondar, oh my god. It's so great. It's so great. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to mention. Let's see. I didn't like Denna Maas, obviously. Loved Kaylin. Loved Denna. I still love Kaylin more, obviously, but Denna was like a close competitor. The twist at the end, there's like a surprise twist. It did nothing for me. I don't really care about that. I'm just way too invested into Kaylin's life right now. And the second book, it's on its way. I haven't started it. I just finished this. I don't know how long I've been reading it. Months, maybe. I don't know when I posted that first video. Probably like in what, November or December. It's been a while. I'm not a fast reader. This is also a Bible, so I mean, I can't be expected to finish this in what, like 2 weeks, like regular freaks. I have a job, you know. I have things to do. But it was so great. The next book, I'll be sure to write down my thoughts and mark the pages that are important to the plot and stuff, because Now that I'm trying to think about what to say about the book, I can't think of anything. But we'll see what happens with the next book. We'll see if Denna perhaps reappears with, I don't think she will, but we'll see. 10 out of 10. If you want to read it, read it. And if you don't want to read it, read it. Wizard's first rule, 10 out of 10.